Right, I can see quite a few people are now with us, so we will get started today on that. So for those where it is the first demo of the system, or the first time they've seen Sage Intacct for Education, obviously Sage Intacct for Education is a fully cloud-based software, specifically for multi-academy trusts. Kev will show you exactly why it's for multi-academy trust, and for anyone who's used previous Sage systems is certainly an improvement on that. So today, to set in a little bit of an agenda for you there, we will be covering off, firstly, a little bit, as always, and for those, I see a couple of regular people on here, we will be doing a little bit an intro of ION and who we are and how we play a part with Sage Intacct. But then we'll be going straight into the system and then going through your dashboards and your reporting, consolidation and how this works within Sage Intacct, as we know that's vital for all multi-academy trust and how that seems to be a little bit of a bottleneck for a lot of trusts. We'll then be going into the purchase workflows. So really key, how simple is it for the requisitioners and those non-finance teams to work the system? But also, how does it bend to you? Every multi-academy trust is set slightly different and might want different levels of approvals or different purchase workflows. So Kev will show you how that works within Sage Intacct. And then we'll go into budgeting and spend insights. Key right now. I know a lot of people are having to go through reforecasting, especially after this year, because I know it's been crazy for multi-academy trusts and the budgeting has been changed a lot. But how can you keep a bit of a tighter grip on that budgeting within the system? And like I mentioned at the very beginning, we'll have that period for the a live Q&A at the very end there for you. So as I mentioned, as always, a little bit about ION there for you. So who are we? Really important to notice that obviously we are a Sage partner. Now Sage have a partner model. So everyone that'll work with Sage Intacct, they'll actually go through a partner and not direct to Sage themselves. So this is why I always say that it's really important to know who ION are. Now, we are actually Sage's leading Sage Intacct for Education partner, and that's because of the experience we've had, and we spearheaded this launch with them on that. So you're aware, we've got a dedicated Sage Intacct team in-house that'll not only help you with implementation, but also key for that support after you've gone live. Now, also really important there and something to make a note on is our low risk methodology. Now, seems a little bit cheesy. I know that we call it the ION way, but this is very unique to ION and something that we'll make sure that you've got the right project and the right software that's on time for you and you're getting it delivered exactly how you expected it to be delivered. So we'll go through a full discovery phase of how do you want the system set up. You'll be hearing it quite a bit on this demo of how it's customizable, or we can change this to how you want it. So really important that we know how you want the system to work. We'll go away and build it there for you. And then also importantly, we'll do a training in-house and a user acceptance phase. So training, that'll be done how you want to do it. If I'm being honest with you, we'll give you that flexibility. So we can either train the trainer or we can train your teams. And obviously we're aware that if you're looking for something for September, people might have some summer holidays, although I know as core finance teams, unfortunately, you don't quite get those holidays. But we can help people train back up in September as well. You'll go through your user acceptance phase. So what we've built, it'll be a dummy version there for you of what we've built, and you'll get to go and test it. So of what we talked about in the discovery, does it work the way you thought that it worked? If not, we can then quickly change a few bits and tweak a few bits before you go live, and then you go post live and go through support. So brilliant. So again, just to reiterate, obviously Sage Intacct for Education, you may or may not have heard of it. Hopefully you have started hearing about it by now, but it is a modern cloud-based accounting system. Obviously, the idea of that is that you can successfully scale your MAT. Now, I know that scaling and growing a MAT is quite a hot topic and been a hot topic for some time, but how you do that is within obviously your own control, but you get that control with Sage Intacct, which Kev will show you that from how you're putting in skills to your reports and how the system just grows with you. One thing to note, just before I do pass you over to Kev and you start seeing the system, is that it is fully cloud-based, so nothing's being downloaded on Kev's computer for you to see the system. He's just logging in through his web browser, which means that it's fully accessible anywhere. You can be sitting in a coffee shop, although you probably won't get much opportunity to do that. But if you're working remotely, you can easily access it from your laptop, your tablet, and you have no worries, even a phone. So you can be doing, not that you'd want to do it, but on a holiday, you can be doing your purchase requisitions and everything like that and approvals from a beach somewhere if you've got internet connection. But I'll pass you straight over to Kev then. He'll take you straight into the system.
Thanks very much, Katie. Yeah, hopefully nobody's doing purchase approvals on the beach, right? I mean, anyway, so you could. So thank you everyone for attending the last of the sessions today. As Katie said, this is going to be a full Sage Intacct for Education demonstration. Hopefully leave some time for questions at the end to cover off any points that you might need clarified further. But to get us started off, and just to get really straight into what you're able to see on the screen there now is my homepage that I have landed on when I first signed into Sage Intacct for Education. So logged in as myself. So my user is a full administrator. I've got permission to everything within this system. I can click every button and see every screen. I'm logged into the Ion Academy Trust, which is a demonstration environment. I have got 5 schools, okay, 6 actually, because I had a new one earlier, which I haven't deleted out yet. We've got 5 schools in there, and we've got the trust itself within the environment. And when I first logged in, as I say, this CEO dashboard is what I have configured to be what I see initially when I bring the system up. So first thing really to be very clear on is this dashboard that we're looking at now, that the CEO dashboard can be very easily customized to show you exactly what it is that you need to see. So the CEO or CFO or whoever it is within the trust who needs access to this system is able to have their own dashboard with their own information, their own reports and KPIs and graphs and charts, okay? So all sorts of different purposes for the dashboards that we will cover off in a bit more detail throughout the session. But we do often get asked about the dashboards in terms of, well, can a certain user, so could a budget holder see what they need to have, and do you have one that's created already, or do you have examples we can use? Yes to all, really. We can give you example dashboards like we have here. We can build them from scratch, or we can support you in creating them. It is very, very easy, very straightforward to create the dashboards and make them look how you want. So whether that's adding a new component from up at the top right, copying a dashboard, changing some settings to relate to the dashboard, or choosing whether we're going to remove components. So if there's a particular report that's no longer relevant, we can click the delete option there, which will remove it away. So very easy to create and be able to make your own. Okay, now this particular dashboard, the one that we're looking at now, is presenting me with a lot of different information. So as we said, we've got KPIs. Okay, now again, these individual metrics, KPIs, can be changed, and we can add different ones. I will show you towards the end of the session another dashboard that's got loads and loads of different types of KPIs on there. But it's not just really reporting and metrics there. If we scroll down, there are other things that we can add to the dashboards. We can have approvals for whether that be journals or whether that's for purchasing transactions. We can have aging reports, okay? And Ion have also created and embedded a support page directly within this particular dashboard. So if the team within the trust needs a question answered, if they want to give us a call, if they need to submit a case or start a live chat, they're able to do that very, very easily, just directly via the system. And that comes through to a support team at Ion as well. It's the Sage Intacct Education team. You'll get directly through to them, and they'll be able to support you with this. Now, the reports and the numbers on this particular dashboard are consolidated, and the reason that they're able to consolidate and we're able to run the dashboard or different reports for the entire trust or for different groups of schools within the trust is because I'm working at something called the top level. Now, the top level of Sage Intacct is really that umbrella view of everything, if you like. You're able to report on all of the schools within the trust, or you're able to see that consolidated information from the top level. And it allows you to pick and choose using the filters what group of schools, cluster, okay, or individual school I'd like to report on or see information relating to. So again, it's really quite straightforward to select the filter. You can choose the dates, and you can choose cost centers also to filter if you'd like to, or departments, depending on your terminology there. But we can really filter the dashboards right down. So if I filter it there for Swaledale Academy, as you can see, it's now changing the numbers, changing the reporting behind the scenes so that it's only showing me information that is specific to Swaledale Academy. Okay, so very, very easy to do that. And the top level really opens up the doors that allows you to consolidate. Now, not a lot of other systems that I've worked with other Sage systems and other systems in the past, that means consolidation has to be processed via Excel spreadsheets. You might have to put formulas in there to bring the numbers together. And the top level simply means you don't have to do that anymore. It really will consolidate automatically and in real time for you all of the financial data within the system. We are also able to have the individual schools open at the same time. So you can see here within my list, I've got Derwentdale, Swaledale, and a few other different examples of schools there. I can actually have them open in the browser at the same time as the top level. So if I need to see that trust-wide impact and school level impact, I can do that by having every school and the trust itself open within the different tabs of the browser. And a good way of viewing that and kind of demonstrating that view is if I go into accounts payable and look at my list of suppliers, just a handful of demonstration suppliers here. I'm sure you'll have a lot more within your live systems there, but just got a few example suppliers in the system. Now, YPO, as an example, only needs to be set up once. So at the top level, we set up the supplier. Okay, that supplier is then automatically available through the different schools as well. So you can see here that YPO is the entire trust. We are owing 13,163. But if I view that number within Derwentdale, you can see that that is changed now. In Derwentdale, it's only 1,971. It's the same supplier record, but it's now filtering and just giving me that information specific to Derwentdale Academy. And that'll be the same within all of the schools. So you can see Swaledale there jumps up to 10. That is quite a straightforward example of how we can view that information both at an individual school level and the trust level. But there's a lot more to it than that as well. So getting that balance breakdown is very useful. But from an actual setup perspective of the system, in terms of what Ion will do initially for you as part of the implementation, we create and we will configure this system at the top level, meaning that we need to set up your AP, your accounts receivable, purchasing workflows, the general ledger and the chart of accounts. Okay, any reports or dashboards and settings will all be configured at the top level, meaning that we can very easily add new schools into this system. As you can see from the drop down there, I added a new school earlier today. It takes literally seconds to be able to do that. Okay, and if I open up that new school, you can see it launches a new tab within the browser, takes me to the suppliers because that's where I was before. Okay, and then I can see, look, the suppliers are all there, the general ledger accounts. I've got all of the same settings and options now within the new school as I have within the others. So that really makes the growth of a multi-academy trust and that scaling kind of element of that very, very straightforward and very cost effective as well. You don't need to pay anyone. So Ion do not need to be paid if you need to bring in a new school. We can help and support as part of your support that you'll receive, but you don't need to pay for a re-implementation or anything like that, because we've seen with competitors and other systems out there that if you do need to add a new school, that can be quite lengthy in terms of time consuming, but also quite costly as well. So Sage Intacct makes it very straightforward. Okay, so I think Katie did allude to this as well, but we'll just cover it off. I mentioned before that I've got multiple tabs open in my browser, and that is because we're working online. We're working in a web browser. This system is a true cloud-based product. It's not a desktop-based solution that is then being built into the cloud. It was originally designed to be a web-based system, so it's only ever been browser-based software. That means your updates are all completely automatic. Sage look after all of the updates and roll them out for you. You don't pay anything to be updated to the new version of the system when it comes out. It's all automatic. Your IT teams will love it because they don't need to lift a finger to install anything for anyone. I had an example not long ago within a trust where somebody needed it was another Sage product and they needed it installed on their computer, and the IT guy installed Sage Payroll instead of Sage 200, and it was just, I mean, you can just imagine that kind of, everybody wants to move away from the installation. The IT guys don't want to be doing it. They want to be looking after what's important for the trust, which is making sure you're secure in your online safety and all of those types of things. So really helps you and it will save a lot of time and a lot of effort in relation to accessing the system from wherever you are and not having to go through reinstallations of the product every time there's a new update. Okay. One more just quick benefit again there of working at the top level, and it's the ability for the team, whether that's a central team or whether there's an administrator that is responsible for the system for the trust. It allows them to be able to configure and set up the users quite easily as well. So we looked at before there, and I give you the example of adding a new school, but adding something like a new user as well is very straightforward. So if I just look at John Smith there for a sec, so John Smith is got a user type. He's got a certain level of admin privilege, but he's also got a role which dictates the permissions that he's able to what he's able to see and do within the system. He's actually restricted to only be able to see an individual school. So the John Smith user can't log in and see the trust or see anything else other than the school that particular user will work for. And it's the same with cost centers. So John Smith is a purchase requisitioner. Okay, he's got the requisitioner role. He only works for Swaledale, and he only works within the PE faculty within that particular cost center. So you've got that control from the top level to be able to set up the user access so they can only see and affect certain areas of the system as per your requirements. Okay, so a couple of other bits that we'll just stay on I suppose on the topic really. We're going to now take a look at some of the reporting capabilities of Sage Intacct, and I'd like to run through a few examples of the reports that you will get as standard with this system. But then we'll also quickly look at how we can edit and run reports and get them out of the system in the most effective way. So we'll start by, again, from the top level, but it's important really to note as well here that reports can be run at school level. So if I'm in Derwentdale and I want to navigate to my report center, I can do that very easily and start to run reports just for Derwentdale Academy or within Swaledale or whatever the school would need to be. I can run those reports and dashboards and records individually at school level. But at the top, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to run a few examples of reports here just so we can see how that works. Now I'll start with, by going to my favorites there, we'll look at the trust consolidation report for income and expenditure. You've got a date range, cost center and location that can be used to filter the report. Again, a bit like the dashboard before. And if we run that, you'll see we get the breakdown across the page of all of the schools within the environment, side-by-side comparisons, and that trust-wide impact on the right-hand side. And every one of the reports and the dashboards, every single thing on the dashboards and within the reports can all be drilled into. They're all fully drillable right the way through to the source transaction. So if I click on that, £150 there for trading in income for clubs, it will load up the invoice that is actually posted that transaction into the system. And I can get into the journal to see the double entry there. And then even further again, where it will take me into the physical copy of the invoice where I can print, edit, duplicate, whatever I need to do there. It will give me that breakdown of exactly what has made up that particular number all the way through from the report itself. So again, very useful and handy. And that's not within the individual school. I didn't need to run this report within that school. I've run it from the top level and it's still provided that drillable insight all the way through into that transaction. But there really are all sorts of different types of reports that we're able to run. So very common one, we know this, budgets and actuals and committed reports. We know they're important. And again, those filters are there for schools and for cost centers all the way through, where we can run those budget reports and we can start to spot trends. And you can see the budget variances there have highlighted straight away in red. It's telling us that there's an issue. It needs our attention. Now I've entered in a budget the wrong way around, I think there, which is why it's showing in red. But it's giving you that ability again to drill into the report and be able to analyze that and spot any particular trends that you need to be aware of. Reports can be grouped together as well. So if you have management packs or kind of statutory reporting packs that you need to produce, we're able to group those reports together and run them all at the same time. So the management report pack that I have, if we just have a quick look at it, contains budget versus actual, a consolidation report, statement of cash flow, and a balance sheet. I can run that with one single click of a button and it will produce the reports in the system. Now I've stored an example report there that was run at the back end of last month. Drop that into Excel and it will give you the side-by-side reports, okay, that we've had in that report group automatically. So we've got an income and expenditure, consolidation, a cash flow, and a balance sheet report. We can produce all of those reports with one single click of a button once they've been grouped together. We can also schedule the reports to run as well. So if I wanted to schedule the report and say, send that management report pack out to a particular person or different stakeholders that might be relevant within the trust, I can schedule the report to run on a particular date, okay, say to run every month, week, day, or year, okay, and it will email a copy of that report pack. And do this for individual reports as well. So we can send those reports automatically out of the system based on a schedule if you have the need to do that. There might be users who log in and prefer to just view a dashboard and they might not need to do that, but it really is up to you. You've got that flexibility to be able to send out those reports in the ways that you see fit. Okay, so all sorts of options there when it comes to reports, and Ion have actually went ahead, and it's probably better for me to show you this on a dashboard. Actually, Ion have built templated reports that you can use to submit your management, your annual accounts return reporting. So we've got examples of BFRs that have been mapped together based on the codes in the background. You've got counterparty there, the benchmarking report, and a main accounts return itself. So we've produced the report templates that will allow you to produce those types of reports when you need them to be able to submit them through to the DFE or to the relevant government body that you need to submit the reports to. So we are actually working on at Ion as well, and we're in the process of this to link Sage Intacct up with the DFE, so you are able to make that automated submission from the actual system itself. So that's in development at the moment. So hopefully that will be ready for September for when a lot of multi-academy trusts will be looking to go live, because that's something we're developing now. All sorts of different reports available. We can edit them and we can build new reports from scratch very, very easily. So again, if you don't not that you won't, but the reports that we give you and all the reports that Ian have created, I'm sure you'll love them. But if you did need to make tweaks to them, it's incredibly easy to use the report writing tools in this system to make that change. So again, I'll show you a very quick example of this. I'm aware that we've got a short amount of time on the session today, but if we look at an income and expenditure report, just going to keep this quite basic. You can see here there's just on this particular report one column for income and expenditure to summarize report. It's just giving me the data that I need year to date. It's based on actuals. Still got that drillable functionality because we've got the blue links there. We can drill into the transactions, and it's again, because we're at the top level, it's a consolidated report. But if I'd like to get a little bit more insight out of this specific report, I'm going to quickly show you how easy the report writing tools are. So the financial report writer, we're able to go into the rows or columns to manipulate the data that's being displayed and be able to make those changes. So in the columns, if you remember on that particular report, we've just looked at an actual figure for the current year to date. Now, what I'd like to tell the system to do for me is to show me that information, but break it out by cost center. Okay, I don't want to just see that one year-to-date column. I'd like to see that information broken out very quickly as well. It makes that change, and it's now breaking out the columns. So the monetary values that were kind of grouped together just into that one column on the original report, they're now being split out across the page by different cost centers or departments. Okay, and it's really the time that it takes and how easy that was for me to do. It's very, and we could pick school or location, trips. We have funds, we have items, all sorts of different dimensional values there, or even time periods that we could use to expand that information out across the page. Okay, there's all sorts of options here. As you can see on the left, you've got computations and filters and formatting. You can add notations to the reports where you're able to add notes for, again, whatever reason you need to. So very easy to use. It's very well laid out and user friendly. You don't need to constantly be picking up the phone to Ion to ask them to help you with reports. I mean, you can, we're going to be here, but the idea really is with this is you shouldn't need to, because it's very easy, very straightforward to use. Okay, so that's a little bit then on the reports. And again, if there's any questions at the end regarding that, but the usual questions that we get there are, well, can I add forecasts to report? And again, yes, you can. As long as the forecast information is in the system, you can add that to the report. Same with additional budgets or any other information there within the system, you'll be able to add them. But see if there's any questions come through at the end regarding that. Okay. Just going to run through now, we're going to move topics there. Now we've covered off reports and we've had a little look at the functionality there. I'm going to run through something slightly different now, which is the purchase to pay workflow. Now, in this workflow, in this example or this demonstration, I'm going to play the role. So the Kevin user here is going to play the role of a budget holder. So I'm going to be approving the transactions as they come through from either requisitions or purchase orders, depending on what the workflow is. But I'm able to, as a budget holder, have my own dashboard. I can see what we've spent so far. I've got a report. I can see the transactions that are awaiting my approval. And I've also got some messaging tools there that we can use to communicate across the team. So I can send messaging to John Smith, or I can send messages to, or the finance team will be able to communicate with me as the budget holder and send some messaging there via the message board. So all sorts of options. But what we'll do is we'll actually submit now a transaction through for approval using John Smith and his login there. So we'll just bear with me there. I've got that open just on another page there. So we're in now here as John Smith, who is a requisitioner, and this is the potential type of dashboard that you can see. And what we need to remember here is that these dashboards are what I've created as an example to be able to display what potentially is possible. The requisitioner really can see exactly what it is that you need them to see, and they can have all the information there that you might think is relevant for them. But if we just go ahead, we're going to add in a new transaction for the budget holder to approve. So few basic boxes here, a few basic pieces of information regarding what is being purchased from the requisitioner. Now I've picked YPO again as the supplier. I've got a delivery address, and I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop my purchasing attachment directly onto the screen there. You can add as many attachments as you like in the system to either purchasing transactions or journals, invoices, whatever type of transaction it is, you will be able to add an attachment. Okay, so we want to confirm that we've attached a file, otherwise the requisitioner gets a warning message to maybe prompt them to make sure they've added an attachment. And then we can go ahead and specify exactly what it is that we're going to buy. Now, I happen to have a YPO catalog loaded into my demo environment. Now, YPO, again, is just an example. We can load in any type of supplier catalog if you require it, or we can keep this a bit more straightforward. We can have free text items, or we can have this set up in the way really where the requisitioner is just picking from something quite straightforward, and they can just type in what it is that they're looking to purchase. In this example, we're going to search in the catalog. So I'm going to search for an iPad. Now, again, I'm just going to pick one here. It doesn't particularly matter. We're buying an iPad. Now, if you remember John Smith's login from earlier, sorry, John Smith's user record from before when we were looking at it, John was restricted to PE and to Spaledale Academy. So the John Smith purchase requisition user is unable to do anything that we haven't given him access to. He can't pick from a cost center or location that we haven't given him access to. Okay, so very straightforward, just a few boxes that we need to, we can even pre-populate and actually get the cost center and location pre-populated in the boxes there as well. So it's very, very minimal, that what we'd expect the requisitioner to be able to fill in there. So straightforward. We've submitted the requisition through for approval. Email notifications will be sent out to the I was meant to go on my other screen. So we've got an email notification sent through automatically there. So that came through in real time. So we've had that received to say that there is a new requisition from John Smith that has been submitted for approval. Now, I could click the link within the email there to display the transaction that I need to approve, but I'm already logged in, remember, on the other screen. So I'm just going to close out there as John, and we're going to swap that login back over to my user, where I've now got my dashboard where I can click in and I can make the approval that has just come through there for John Smith, purchase requisition number 142 with today's date. And I'm able to view that and make the decision on whether or not I'm able to approve that for the relevant budget that I'm responsible for. Now, as you can see here, we've got all of the information there that the user John Smith submitted. We've got the attachments, the supply, the dates, the items, the cost centers, the locations, everything. Would have any references or messaging as well that was put on. But most importantly, we've got a very handy tool that the budget holder here can use to be able to basically know with a single click of a button if we can afford to approve this transaction. For the combination of PE, Spaledale, and curriculum materials. Now, we didn't see curriculum materials at any stage there. We haven't expected the requisitioner to select a general ledger or a nominal code. They just picked and specified what it is that they wanted to buy. In the background, the YPO catalog is actually linked against this curriculum materials 810-200 account there. Now, again, those mappings from the purchasing items that the user would like to buy, we'll decide, and we'll work with the trust to understand how that looks. But effectively, the system's done all of the work for me. It knows the budget, what we've actually spent, how much is committed, and whether or not we can afford to buy whatever it is that we've ordered or been requested to approve. Runnable numbers again there. Remember, if it's in blue, we can click into it. Okay, and it will take us in. So if the budget holder decided, well, wait a minute, it doesn't seem right, I shouldn't have actually spent that so far, that doesn't seem right, we can actually click into the number and we can get to what is happening behind the scenes. Okay, so if we come out of that, didn't approve it, but we're able to approve that transaction there. Should I click the approve button? So that then once it's approved, the finance team are then notified, or the finance team are then able to pick this up and convert that approved requisition through the rest of the purchasing workflow. If we move through that quite quickly, I'm going to swap hats again. Although I'm not swapping logins here, I'm still going to remain in as myself. I know I've played the part of the budget holder there, but I'm going to pick this up now as if it was somebody from the finance team or somebody within maybe one of the schools that is now able to convert the approved requisition into the relevant step of the workflow that would come next. Now, so there's our requisition. It's been approved because we've got an approved filter added to this, and I can convert this into a purchase order. Now, what we do with the purchase order would be entirely up to you in the trust. Do we need to send this? Do we need to email it? Or is it simply just in the system for commitment purposes? It is, again, completely up to you, but that the purchase order is now being pulled through. It's been generated with the same attachments, although we can add more. Item, location, cost center, everything's been pulled across. But notice now that it's actually given me a couple of other options. From the finance perspective, I might now expect to actually, well, I know that this particular spend is relating to a trip, or the trip actually could be baked into the cost center if we needed to. So we don't necessarily have to have this separately. We could say if it was a PE trip, that could have been a cost center code that was created for that, or a department-based code. Options around that there as well, and then the fund that is associated with this particular spend. Now, I'm clicking into that to specify the fund manually there, but what we can do is we can build in those relationships between the different items and cost centers and locations to default the fund to a particular fund type if we have that need to do so. Note we've still got the spend insight button there. So the finance team's also able to see the same information as the budget holder, but now this can be converted into the PO. Now notice it's a submit. This could be subject to further approval if required. So the purchase order might need to be approved by someone else within the team or the head of finance. Or again, depending on the monetary value, that PO might need to be approved again. It hasn't in this particular scenario. We're pending, which means the purchase order is ready for the next stage of the workflow. Again, I'm skipping out a couple of bits here. We could email the PO, we could print it, we can do whatever we want with it. But we're jumping ahead in time here to the iPad that we ordered, or we've put onto the purchase order has been received, and we can confirm that the goods have been received. Now, if this was a large order and we'd only received half of whatever it is that we've ordered, or we've only received a certain quantity, we can update that at this stage. And we can then attach a copy of the GRN to the attachment box there as well. We'll post the GRN, and now we're ready to convert the goods received. Note, so we've received the iPad now, that's been confirmed. We're now able and waiting for the invoice transaction to be received. So we're going to receive an invoice via email, or that's going to come in, and we're able to convert the goods received note into the invoice, where I need to specify the VAT treatment. So again, you can notice there it's pulled through the amounts, but we're checking that right against the relevant invoice, making sure that the prices are correct. Attach a copy of the invoice again, and we can specify the document number in the box there. Post the invoice through, and that is purchase requisition to purchase order to goods received note and to invoice, done very quickly. Obviously, that in real life is going to take a lot longer because the process will be drawn out in terms of the real life time differences between these things happening. But that is how easy and straightforward it is to convert through the different stages of that workflow. And Ion can customize and tailor that workflow further if needed, depending on what the requirement is there within the trust. Okay, so that's I suppose your purchase to pay workflow. We've talked there and we've discussed the Spend Insight tool, which is incredibly useful for the team to be able to make sure, whether that's the finance team or the budget holder, they can see that the budget is underspent. We've got enough money, or we can see if we're going to be going overspend. We can configure rules there as well with Spend Insight to stop to even stop the submission of the requisition. So the requisitioner might not even be able to submit it if it's going to take them over budget. So there's all sorts of controls and rules we can put in alongside that there as well. The purchase payment run will come next. Again, now depending on your setup, depending on the setup of the trust, whether you've got a central bank account for the entire trust or whether you have a bank account within each of the schools, either way we can cater for this. But again, from the top level, I'm going to do a centralized payment run where I can choose the bank that the money will be coming out of. I can choose the payment dates, descriptions. I can choose to send automatic email notifications of payment. So like a remittance, I can automate the sending of that remittance note to the supplier, and I can choose to pay or not to pay the relevant invoices on the payment run. We click Pay Now, and that will generate the BACS file that you would be able to then upload to the bank, depending on who it is that you bank with. You'd be able to produce that file, upload it, and then you'll be able to reconcile those payments when they come back into Sage Intacct using the bank feed functionality, which could maybe potentially covered on other webinars. But if we need to go into that, we can have follow-up kind of sessions, and we've got kind of videos and all sorts of guidance on how we can set up the bank feed and how that functionality works. But what I wanted to leave on, aiming for 15 minutes of questions here. So I just want to leave us on a particular screen, which is actually, and I don't mind kind of bringing this up really and kind of going into it. We've got a development environment of Sage Intacct for Education as well. And quite recently, we've developed and we've created this dashboard, which has all sorts of different KPIs on here based on your benchmarking requirements. Is it SM? Or I can't remember the I can't remember the guidance that we used to look at this and what the abbreviation was, but we've built into the system different KPIs for things like average teacher costs, catering expenditure per pupil, and I'm sure looking at this, the guys like, you'll be able to see numbers and requirements in here that you need. And we can get these directly out of Sage Intacct. We've got all sorts of calculations being processed behind the scenes, and they're all automatically displaying this on the dashboard. But we use for benchmarking purposes, both internally and externally as well, if you need to compare yourselves against similar sized trusts. But I think that's just about everything that I had to cover off today. Unless, Katie, you're probably going to tell me that I've missed something, but I'll hand back over to you now for if there's any questions.
Brilliant. Yeah, I can see a couple of people typing away there, so I'll give a bit of time for people to answer questions. One thing just to probably mention, which Kev, I think we're both at fault for missing off at the start, is that we really do say that Sage Intacct for Education will be your last financial software. Obviously, I know that you need to do reviews every now and then, but the reason why is obviously you've seen today how easy it is to grow and scale. You're not needing to invest further money to say get us to build reports for you or add new schools into it. Obviously, we are there for support and whenever you do need us. But one of the key reasons is that it's got an open API, which what that means is really it'll link up with any other bit of software and that also has an open API. So Sage has a full wealth of already pre-built software that has that integration. So for yourselves, you should never need to move off it because there's integrations available. And actually that I've just seen the first question there, which quite nicely ties us into that. So how do budgets get into the system? Kev, do you want me to leave that one with yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few options. I saw the questionnaire come through, so I've loaded up the budget import file here. So a lot of they're very easy to work with. We can remove any columns on the templates that we don't need. So effectively, we've got your budget ID, the account number, cost center or department, and the school. So you can import budgets from multiple schools at the same time. and then you've got your different budget periods going across the page there. So we can complete the template and import the budget directly from the Excel file, or we can integrate, as Katie mentioned there, with other budgeting systems. IMP, I think, are very close to finalising their integration. Arovia, we're looking at, or Arovia, we're looking at potentially working with them to build us an integration between the systems, but very easily able to get the information in via a spreadsheet template.
Yeah, what it should mean as well, just for the integrations, you may already have them with current systems, but it'll just seamlessly link up. So anything for your budgeting and forecasting, it'll just pull that information. Kev's nicely pulling it up as if this was pre-planned, but you can pull it and you choose which budget you want to report against. So the system very easy to use, and I'm probably stealing a bit of thunder from Kev here, but you can store as many budgets as you like within the system. I mean, you've probably had to do several reforecasts this year, more than you would have wanted to. So you just pick what you want to do that on.
Yeah, there's no limit at all to the number of budgets or forecasts that you can have in the system. It's very easy to get them in there, and you can have as many as you like.
Brilliant. Open for as well for more questions. I know a couple of, if anyone's got any, obviously we'll be in touch with everyone individually as well to see how he's found the demo of today's webinar. But one important thing that probably we do get quite a lot, and it always really crops up probably at the start of the conversations I'll have with people, is about support. So for that, I think we might have mentioned this on previous webinars if anyone has sat any, but support is done directly through Ion. So you won't have to go back to Sage. Now, obviously, the huge benefit of that is that we've got a dedicated support team in-house, and also that we've got a dedicated Sage Intacct support team as well. So Kev and his team, who'll have set up your software and have gone through all the training, are also the same people that'll help with your support as well. So how we overcome any questions you might have, it's done with a lot quicker. And obviously you'll have seen what Kev managed to show you there on the dashboard. You can come to us in several different forms of support. So whether that be phone call, email, live chat, or just raising a query within the system. I can see someone typing away there, so I'll wait till their question pops up. Kev, is there anything that you think comes up quite a bit, even just throughout the implementation, that you might be able to give trusts a bit of advice on?
Now we do often get asked regarding the approach to training. So we have a phase of the Ion delivery methodology for training and user acceptance testing. I think Katie mentioned at the beginning, and we really can tailor the approach for training to the trust in terms of what you would rather. So if we need to go down a train the trainer approach, where we have a central kind of team that is trained, and then they can cascade that down to the schools themselves, or whether we do individual kind of teams where we'll train the purchase requisitioners and the budget holders separately. It really is up to you to decide the approach together really on that. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other kind of common ones that come up. Our support, Katie, you're absolutely right. It is always a common one.
Yeah. The next question as well, actually, it's probably something that, apologies if I didn't go over it as much. So if we were to consider moving, how long do you anticipate the implementation process taking before the product is ready for use? So we usually say 10 to 12 weeks. And the reason why there's 10 to 12 is because of the elements, like we put training in there, which obviously means availability for everyone. What we actually recommend, obviously, if you want a system up and running for September, is actually that you go live really June, July time, and that gives you time to use it before it's your busiest period in September. Now, last year we had trusts that went live in June and July, and we had trusts that went live in September. And by far, the people who went live a little bit earlier found coming back in September a lot easier, and they weren't having that period of trying to get used to the system whilst it's literally your busiest months. So something to consider, but we can certainly talk about you a bit more of the implementation process if we can if there's room, it obviously depends on the workload we have on as well, and the other clientels that we're trying to get live around a similar time. But we can certainly work with you to try and condense that as much as possible of where there's scope to do so. Another question there for you, Kev, is does the API link mean you can link with payroll systems for payroll journals?
Yeah. To give you the really simple answer there is yes, it absolutely does mean you can do that. We'll need to scope it out to make sure that the system where the payroll journal is coming from or can be linked, because there's got to be that flexibility on the other side. So as good as Sage Intacct is for having an open API, it doesn't always mean that the other system has. But what we found that is getting the journal into a format that can be imported is very straightforward as well there, Kate. So yeah, definitely want to explore depending on the payroll system that you use, but we could look at it. And then I can see the next one there, Katie, as well. It's a really good question. Really good question, because we had this conversation just the other day with a trust who are looking to get set up and go live, and they're worried that they won't be able to get all of their opening balances in time, but they don't need to, because the system will not prevent you from starting to use it from day one to then retrospectively migrate the opening balances in. On a couple of different approaches to that, so we'd be really interested in having a conversation, because there's a few options around the data migration of the transactions. So we could bring in trial balance values with monthly net changes. We can bring in a simple version of those. We can do all sorts of different things around it, but I think for audit adjustments, you'd be able to get your opening trial balances in, and then there's an audit adjustment transaction that you can use to affect close periods where you can process the transactions if you need to. So options around that. Hope that answers the question.
I can see. So just another question there, Kev, on how fixed assets are processed within the system.
Yeah. So it has a fully built-in fixed assets module, which it is an add-on in terms of licensing, so that the actual application does need to be paid for in addition to the core functionality, but it does integrate. It's part of the core system as well. So when you get it in there, it works alongside all of the other modules within the system. So if you receive an invoice for a new fixed asset, you're actually able to create the asset from the invoice transaction, place it into service, which will then create any depreciation schedules and automatically process them through back to the general ledger. So yeah, I mean, fixed assets. It's going to hold the record. It's going to have the schedules there. It's going to automate your depreciation for you effectively. So it's a very good job of that. There's all sorts of different information you can hold on the assets as well.
Yeah. Kev, can you see the other question there? Just asking about month-end and year-end processes as well.
Yeah. Again, it's an example of a dashboard that I didn't show during the demonstration there, but we can certainly pick it up on future sessions. But month-end processes can all be put into a dashboard, if you like, and you can have everything that you need for month-end. So the different types of journals you need to process, the different reports that you need to run, the closing of the books, that everything can be put onto a centralized kind of dashboard where you can keep on top of all of those different processes that you need for month-end. And it's the same with year-end as well. Sage Intacct actually has something called a dynamic close, which means that you don't actually need to click a button to tell the system that your year end is there. It will run the year end kind of journaling and close down of the accounts automatically for you at your year end, and it'll then be the reporting periods that you're reporting on that will move the balances around. It's a bit of a difficult one to explain. It might be better to show you, but it's a very, very efficient way of closing down your year end for you.
Yeah, and what we can do, it's probably worth mentioning as well there that obviously we know this was still an overview of the system, and obviously each trust does operate differently, and there'll be other areas that are kind of more important to you. And we can certainly offer personalised demos for anyone as well. I think that's what we mainly do majority of the time, if that's right, Kev, is it gives that personalised demo, because aware that although the webinars are great to give you a good overview and snapshots, but reality, you might use it slightly different. So we'll certainly let you know and can reach out to everyone about having a personalised demo of the system as well, where we'll take a deeper dive and you can very interactive demo and ask questions throughout. But there's just another question there, Kev, saying is about VAT reclaims via VAT 126 report. Does that get downloaded from the system?
Does indeed. Yeah, Alan, you haven't missed it. We just haven't really looked at it. If I'm honest, it's one of those things that I can almost expect to be a given with any finance system that's going to work in education. So yeah, you can produce your VAT 126 report. It can be customized as well, which is important because we know that you might prefer to be you might have certain columns that you need to see with pieces of information on that report. So yeah, we've got a fully working version of a VAT 126 report. You can export it, and then you do what you need to do with that in order to upload that to HMRC to do your reclaim. Okay.
So if that's, I can't see anyone else typing now. Like I say, we will be getting in touch afterwards, just in case you think of anything after the webinar today. But like you say, we can offer personalised demonstrations as well for you, where it's a really deep dive into your exact needs and wants for a system. But thank you so much for your time today. I know it's a little bit of outside of lunchtime for you, and that a little bit longer than our usual ones, but hopefully you've found that really beneficial. And thank you again for your time.